Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. We're continuing our mono blue staples, budget staples, sorry. And we're looking at creatures. We're going to start breaking up the videos into different sections because it was way too long, basically. So we're going to cover some introduction stuff first. So what is a staple? Cards that are frequently played and considered very useful in a range of strategies is referred to as a staple. I'm going to start getting more specific. Again, budget is often kind of separate from staple. Budget tends to be a lot more specific, and staple tends to be something that is useful in all formats. So there are a lot of budget staples, excuse me, but in general, people know most of them. So I want something new and interesting. In my last video, I covered quite a few staples that were budget, but I think a lot of people already have seen those ones before. I'm looking for more interesting ones. Okay, when I say budget, I mean stuff that's $2 and under, alright? So $2 and under is what I mean when I say budget. Some people have budgets that are very different than mine, that's for sure. I'm a teacher. I don't have like hundreds of dollars to drop on stuff. But yeah, so again, a lot of these cards are budget and they are maybe most useful in particular strategies, but I think they can be used in a lot of different strategies. So again, there are 5 basic colors in Magic: white, blue, green, red, and black. So when we say mono blue, we mean only blue, right? You can have combinations of colors. Here we're looking at just blue. In general, I look at blue as the most meta color, like it deals with how the rules work the most. It has most of the counter spells and allows for easy card draw. Both very good things. A lot of times if your deck seems to be lacking something or isn't adapting well, or you're lacking card draw, add blue. That can solve a lot of your problems right there. It is the color with the most tricks. People actually get annoyed at blue players sometimes because they are always up to something, So it's kind of the puck of colors, I think. So budget blue creatures, we are getting into it now. Cephalid Path Mage. First of all, he's unblockable, and we call that evasion. When you cannot block something, or even flying is a type of evasion, right? Makes so some creatures can't block you. This, just nothing can block him. This is very good in combination with something like Quietus Spike, where you hit someone and they just lose half their life. Boom, gone. And you can also tap and sacrifice Cephalid Path Mage to make a target creature unblockable this turn. So again, if you do have a much larger creature, and maybe your opponent's low on life, you just, sacrifice this, get your hit in, win the game. So this is, I wouldn't call it a win con, but it's a step in the right direction toward a win con. Anyway, yeah. And it is 59 cents right now, so that's a deal. A lot of these are under $1. Defiler of Dreams. Okay, this card is 45 cents. It should not be. That's insane that this card is 45 cents. It doesn't, I can't even explain it. But anyway, particularly if you are playing a mono blue deck, this is just like, you have to have this card. So again, flying, hey, sure, why not? A bit of evasion is good. You may pay 2 life instead of a blue in casting cost with anything, right? Even the first time I read this, I was like, oh, only creatures. No, not only creatures, anything. Counterspell is 2 blue. Pay 4 life, counterspell, right? If you do that one time, people are going to get real scared. Pretty much this guy is going to scare everyone away from you at the table, right? They don't want to just get counterspelled. When you cast a blue permanent, draw a card. So here, this also lets, if you are casting any kind of blue permanent, again, a permanent would be a creature, enchantment, or an artifact, right? So anything that stays around. Basically not instants, not sorceries, not tokens. Because you don't cast tokens though. They do stay on the board, but you don't cast them. You usually create them. But you have to cast it. And then you draw a card. So card draw, and you can just use your life total for mana. Yeah, that just crazy, just crazy. This should not be 45 cents. I don't know why it is. I think this shows that like Magic prices don't make sense. Honestly, I've been looking at this more and more, and this is like a perfect example of like, oh yeah, this is just subjective nonsense, like the value of these cards. Because this is like, I think in 2 years, this is going to be like 10 bucks, you know. I should actually order a whole bunch of these, I think, now that I'm talking about it so much. Arcanus the Omnipotent. Okay, so this is one I think everyone has seen before. This is probably the one where, yeah, everybody knows it. What they might not know is that it is 9 cents. So I'm putting it on here, not because like it's unheard of, but because it's so budget. 9 cents, it doesn't get a lot cheaper, right? So tap to draw 3 cards. 3. Tap them, 3 cards. Find some way to untap, 3 more cards. You can go from empty to like a full hand, 1 turn, 2 taps, done. And you can pay 2 and a blue to return him to your hand. You may want to do that, I don't know, you know? I think you combining this with something that reduces ability costs would be best, but it also like, yeah. You can play this at any time, so if someone casts a kill spell, you just take him back into your hand. It's very, very expensive. I would recommend having some way to cheat him into play, because yeah, 3 and 3 blue mana, 6 is not cheap, right? He will be a target. So again, that picking him up off the battlefield thing, that he's going to have a huge target on his back. So it makes sense. Beguiler of Wills. I love this card. I've got only one of these. I'm in Korea and I can't find English ones. So I should just order Korean ones, I guess. But even this was pennies before, and now it's up to 131. But anyway, I should introduce it first. Tap to gain control of target creature with power less than the number of creatures you control. No time listed or condition, right? A lot of times it'll say until you lose control of her, then, okay, you lose control of the creature as well. No, nothing like that here. You just take their creature. If they kill her, you still have the creature. It doesn't matter, right? And you just have to tap her and done. Sneaky token strat. This especially, I recently made a convoke deck, so you make lots of tokens to help pay for mana cost. And this is a great thing if you have any kind of deck that's blue and uses a lot of tokens, like a lot of zombie decks will be Demir, which is blue-black. Throwing this in is just a great way to like mess with people. You can steal commanders, you can steal anything, right? So the downside is she is a 1/1, right? She is going to get killed at some point, but if you've even got 1 activation off with her, might be worth it already, you know? Herkill Master Wizard at 16 cents. Again, this is a newer one. I think that's why it's so cheap. I don't think this is going to go as high as like Defiler of Dreams at some point, but it's still a very good card. It's a little more complicated to understand. I think that cards like that also lower value as well. So at the beginning of your end step, if you cast a non-creature spell this turn, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Take one of any card type that you cast this turn and put it into your hand. So that's wordy and confusing, right? But this is very, very great if you've got any kind of spellslinger deck or enchantment deck or, yeah, again, artifact deck. A non-creature spell, again, so not artifact creatures either. So a lot of times you can kind of cheat, or not, maybe not cheat is the right word, but you can just ignore the creature and say, oh, artifact, I'll take it. No, this specifies non-creature, right? Non-creature. So enchantment creatures, artifact creatures, no. But you look at the top 5 cards. If you, let's say you cast an instant and an enchantment, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. If you have an instant or enchantment, you just put it straight into your hand. So this is not only card draw, but it's replacing the same function that you kind of emptied from your hand, which I think is better than just card draw, because you are getting to sort through them a bit more, and you are getting some degree of choice. You know, like in 5 cards, you might not have a whole bunch of options, but you know, maybe in some decks, especially if you cast like an instant and you have a lot of instants in your deck, you might have 2 or 3 instants in the next 5 cards. That'll give you some selection. Again, you choose which one. So very good card draw and kind of filling in. I like it. Things where it's like you cast something and it fills it back in. Cast it, fill it back in. So yeah. Omni-Spell Adept, 15 cents only. This card, I feel like this is an older card, but it seems like, 2018, which is kind of older, not really. But anyway. Pay 2 and a blue, tap to cast any instant or sorcery from your hand. A lot of the instants and sorceries that have very, very high mana costs are very, very good. Also, often fairly cheap, so that's a bonus. You can just cast anything. It doesn't matter what its cost is. If it's an instant or sorcery, you're paying 2 and a blue, and that's it. That just absolutely mind-bogglingly good. I guess the only real downside is that you do need an instant or sorcery in your hand to activate this. That's the only kind of downside to it. So yeah, maybe that's why it's not as popular. I also think that if it was legendary, this would be a huge card, right? Like, you'd have decks built around this in no time. If it was a legendary creature, commander, if this was a commander, then boom, Bob's your uncle, yeah. And we're getting into a couple Sphinxes now. So Sphinxes are interesting. They're high mana cost, they're big, but they fly. Big flyers, I think if you're going to have a big thing, fly or trample, right? But anyway, Sphinx Mindbreaker must have blue mill strategy. Must have in blue mill strategy. And it's ETB, enter the battlefield effect. So when it comes into the play, each opponent mills 10 cards. Each opponent 10 cards, right? So you should use this with a flicker strat, where you're like taking it off the battlefield, put it back. Take it off the battlefield, put it back. And just drain their decks, right? Remember, if your opponents, any of them run out of cards, that's it, they're out of the game, right? So, you know, even in Commander, you have a 100-card deck, which is a lot. You start off with 7. By turn 3, that's 10 cards already, right? So you're down to 90. If you play this, even if you manage to flicker it 2 or 3 times, that's 30 to 40 cards, right? So that adds up very, very quickly. I think mill is a very underused strategy. People hate it, but it is effective. You know, like, you're not going to win Miss Universe or anything playing mill, but you win the game. Yeah. Sphinx of the Second Sun. I think, yeah, this is probably what most people think of when they think, oh, this is a good Sphinx. Most of the copies of this are significantly more expensive. There's one that's under $2. This one is $1.02. All right, this is the only one. All the others are like $5 and up. So again, one of the things where like if you're going to get it. It's going to go up. So it creates an extra beginning phase. So this is really weird for a creature. Not a lot of creatures like additional combat steps you see more, but may allow some abilities to trigger twice. Some abilities will say at the beginning of your upkeep, do this. You're going to do that twice now, right? So untap, upkeep, draw. Yeah, that's the other thing there. You're going to have 2 draw steps every turn. So you're drawing 2 cards every turn, not 1. Again, just so many uses. So many. Expensive though, right? I don't mean in dollars. $1.02 is pretty good. 6 colorless or 6 of any color, I should say, and 2 blue. So 8 mana to cast this. Probably want a way to cheat that into play, right? You don't want to actually be paying 8. But anyway. So we are going to split this up a bit more. The last video, I did all of them in one go, and it was over half an hour long. That's too long. So next video, I will cover some blue instants and sorceries that may be useful. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Take it easy.